Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. This episode will be our second on market news as it pertains to nickel and cobalt. Nickel and cobalt are two key components in the batteries of electric cars, which are getting more and more attention as the power, speed, distance, and adoption of electric vehicles continues to gain traction. Having a very good knowledge of electric vehicles, our very own Gregor Gregersen was invited to speak on CNBC, where he shared his thoughts on battery metals, nickel and cobalt, and this is what he shared on CNBC.
Gregor, welcome into the conversation. First, can I begin by asking you, how sustainable do you think some of the price increases that we've seen in nickel and cobalt actually are? Because I would contend there's a lot of hype in the EV space right now.
Well, there might be some truth to that about cobalt, because it's gone up already 3 times. It's coming down now. It's sort of stabilizing. Cobalt is all about a supply story. A lot of the cobalt is coming from the Congo. If you have a disruption there, we can see much higher prices. But nickel, I believe, has just started. As a matter of fact, it's at 25% of its 2007 high. So it's really very cheap. From production cost, oftentimes the class 1, the type you need for batteries, is actually cheaper, so most facilities can produce it. So I think you have very little downside and you have a lot of upside potential, especially in regards with the EV story you just alluded.
But any reason why nickel has not done as well as, cobalt, for example? I mean, the market is aware of the EV story, and, clearly cobalt has benefited in terms of price appreciation, but nickel has not benefited as much, especially class 1 nickel. I mean, what's your take on why, it's lagging?
Most people don't know about it. So when you buy something for lithium-ion, you will go with lithium first. And lithium has gone up 400%. Then cobalt is the next story. Nickel is something that most people are not aware of, and I believe that will be the next big story, really, because batteries, what holds the charge in modern chemistries for batteries is nickel, not cobalt. You need cobalt to prevent the battery from exploding. So the more nickel you can put into a battery, the cheaper the battery becomes, the more powerful the battery, and the more range you get in your cars. So the whole industry is trying to go to a new battery standard where 80% is nickel. Right now we're around 50% of the cathode being nickel.
Okay, so there'll be an increasing demand for nickel, you can assume, in the future.
Knowing the demand for nickel and cobalt is growing because of more advanced electric vehicle battery compositions requiring more nickel and cobalt, Gregor went on to give an example of what is happening with the future supply of nickel and cobalt and why there is a benefit to buying both EV metals today.
Manufacturers such as Volkswagen, when they just locked in $25 billion worth of nickel and cobalt. When they do that, they're all off-take contracts, meaning it might be production over the next 10 years. And unless you know for sure what you're buying, that miner might have sold future production. So you might not be participating in the upside of nickel. So oftentimes the simplest thing is buy the real thing and sell it whenever you want.
Recently, we also had a chat with Gianni Kovacevic, the author of My Electrician Drives a Porsche. He's also known as the realistic environmentalist. Now, Gianni is high on copper and makes some incredible points on why your investment compass should be pointed towards copper. But to be certain, Gianni does have a positive outlook on electric vehicles, and this is some of what Gianni had to say.
If it's going to be consumer driven because of the cool factor, the modern factor, the convenience factor, or it's going to be, for better or worse, it's going to be mandated by government because they will say you cannot drive the old forms, the incumbent forms of energy after so many years. So they have to pivot into electrification of buses, of road transportation, freight, the creation of electricity, what have you. So I've followed it for 25 years, and all of a sudden it just has become recognized by, I think, more of the mass media. If you're going to operate something over 5 or 10 years, like a bus or a city, it is cheaper in the long run to use electrification. And we use the world's largest bus market, the world's largest manufacturer of buses, number 1 and 2, of course, I speak of China. That is where they are already. You look at the example that BYD Build Your Dreams did in Shenzhen, China. They transferred the bus fleet of that general area. They did it very quickly. They have some 16,000 electric buses, and it's cheaper in the long run. And the collateral benefit is a reduction of particulate pollution.
Both Gregor's and Gianni's full interviews can be found in the links provided below in the description area. And following up on what Gianni had to say about electric buses, the city of Toronto has ordered electric buses from BYD, or Build Your Dreams, which Gianni had just mentioned. From Inside EVs, Toronto places an order for BYD electric buses. BYD received an electric bus order from Toronto Transit Commission, the TTC, Canada's largest transit operator and the third largest transit operator in North America. TTC starts with 10 40-foot BYD buses with an option for 30 more later. By 2025, TTC would like to reach the target of buying only emission-free buses. While another bus order doesn't make big news these days, interesting is what BYD says about its progress. The Chinese manufacturer so far grabbed 66% of all electric bus orders in Canada within the last 2 years, including 100% of the competitive bids for electric buses. In the broader picture, BYD already delivered more than 35,000 all-electric buses to customers in 200 cities, 50 countries, and 6 continents, mostly to China. Also from Inside EVs, BYD received from Recology an order for 2 all-electric Class 8 refuse trucks for use in residential solid waste pickup. It said that those will be the first electric refuse trucks to operate in Seattle and also in the Pacific Northwest region. The Chinese manufacturer already delivered its first garbage collection truck in North America to Palo Alto. It's equipped with a 178 kilowatt-hour battery for a 65 to 75 mile range. Derek Ruckman, Vice President and Group Manager in the Pacific Northwest at Recology, says Recology's electric trucks will serve customers in the city of Seattle and mark an important step in realizing climate impacts that address the region's growing need to prioritize resiliency, especially for collection services that require heavy-duty trucks to frequent roads in these communities on a daily basis. Electric trucks present a sustainable solution that both Recology and its customers can feel good about. Mr. Ruckman says that together with our industry partners BYD and New Way, we can be a catalyst to affect positive, sustainable change, setting the stage for what a 21st century refuse truck should look like. Staying in the electric vehicle service sector, some quick news out of Singapore. Another taxi company has entered the transportation arena. Now, normally this wouldn't be news except that this taxi company is bringing in a fleet of electric cars. From the new paper in Singapore, more e-cabs to hit roads as HDT becomes the 7th taxi operator. After being awarded a full-fledged taxi service operator license from the Land Transport Authority, or LTA, in Singapore, HDT will be required to have a minimum fleet of 800 electric cabs by the end of July 2022. Now, only time will tell how this electric taxi fleet will do, but one thing is certain, you are going to see more and more electric vehicles on the road in the service sector, and their lower operations and maintenance costs will allow them to compete and be more cost effective than their internal combustion engine or ICE counterparts. Now, with that comes the realization that more and more car charging points will need to come online and come online soon. For Mining.com, Bloomberg reports U.S. electric vehicle charging market to grow $18.6 billion. Falling prices and government mandates are set to boost sales of electric vehicles globally, making owning and operating charging infrastructures an attractive area for investment. Charging infrastructure in North America will draw some $18.6 billion by 2030. According to a report by Wood Mackenzie. And it's not just North America that's benefiting. There will be as many as 40 million charging points globally by 2030, as electric vehicles are forecast to make up about 11% of new sales. The global fleet of electric vehicles is likely to more than triple to 13 million by the end of the decade from 3.7 million last year, according to a report by the International Energy Agency. Sales may soar 24% each year on average through 2030, with China expected to become the biggest market. Now, it is true that, as this article mentioned, EV metal prices, cobalt and nickel, have come down since the beginning of the year. Entry points for both metals, although, are looking good, as nickel has found support in the lower 1300 USD range and is on the move upward once again. Cobalt skid downward looks to have slowed somewhat, and news coming out of Japan may give cobalt a bounce upward in both price and demand. From smallcaps.com.au, Japan unveils a plan for automotive industry to go green by 2050 and seek stable cobalt supply. Japan is the latest country to join the race to zero emissions by committing to domestic production and sales of only electrified vehicles by the year 2050. Major car manufacturers Toyota, Nissan, and Honda said it will phase out conventional vehicles within the next 3 decades in favor of fuel cell, gas electric, and plug-in hybrid cars. Japan's plan, while ambitious, is not a world first. Earlier this year, India's Ministry of Power launched a program focused on electric vehicles achieving a domestic market share of more than 30% by 2030. Although there is a concern about cobalt, Japan's Economy Ministry panel also weighed in on the cobalt supply-demand scenario, delivering a new industry initiative requiring the country's automotive houses to work together to secure long-term and stable supplies of the much-needed resource. The Automotive Consortium has been set up to procure cobalt via long-term contracts with existing global suppliers and by investing in new development projects with the Japanese government's financial backing. As we know, cobalt is a vital link in the EV chain and a vital ingredient in the manufacture of electric car battery cells. Its presence in the lithium-ion mix can help stabilize a battery and prevent fires or explosions, while simultaneously conserving battery strength and extending battery life. Cobalt is rarely mined on its own. It occurs as a byproduct of metals such as nickel, copper, and lead, and has been in increasing demand worldwide as countries have shifted to lithium-intensive technologies. In its cobalt report released in June, metals consultancy Roscoe said a sharp increase in demand from the lithium-ion battery sector has contributed most to cobalt's growth story. The report goes on to say that demand for cobalt in batteries is expected to grow at 14.5% per year to 2027, by which point demand from this end-use sector alone could exceed 240,000 tons, or twice the size of the total market in 2017. With demand for cobalt across other key end uses such as nickel alloys used in aerospace set to increase as well, the total market could exceed 310,000 tons by 2027. Now, despite Japan's oncoming and incoming push in the cobalt market, there are those like Elon Musk who say that they are seeking new technologies or cobalt alternatives. Now, the issue with statements like this is that the reality, such as John Haikawi from Stormcrow Capital, who is firm on his research, saying, and I quote, "Battery safety is an absolute requirement for consumer electronics companies and for automotive companies. When a few of the automotive companies in North America started to look at batteries and battery electric vehicles, they literally said, the one thing we cannot do with this new type of industry is have a situation where we sell a nice family a new electric vehicle, they drive it home, park it in their garage, plug it in to charge, and it burns down the house and kills them overnight. Period. Cannot happen." So when you talk about new technologies like lithium air, or some of these other initiatives for use in consumer electronics or in electric vehicles, you have to understand that even if this battery was as cost-effective, as low-priced as the standard lithium battery alternatives, even if that were true today, which it likely isn't, they are depending on scale to drive their costs down as well. It would still probably be 5 to 10 years before anyone would adopt that battery for use, simply because they don't understand the safety profile enough. I think all of us recall, it wasn't that long ago when the Samsung Note 7 phone was even banned from aircraft because of battery instability, aka not enough cobalt. Now, we already know nickel is what provides the energy and cobalt is what keeps the nickel stable. Any new technology separating the marriage of nickel and cobalt will take decades. And John Haikawi also reminds us that the lithium-ion battery, the one we use today, was invented back in the 70s. Now, with that in mind, any new type of technology in the lithium-ion battery space surely looks to be decades away at a minimum. The speed of electric vehicle technology, although it is growing at a fast clip, other companies are still finding supporting roles in the EV revolution. From Channel News Asia, auto suppliers retool to chase electric vehicle bonanza. Out of St. Paul, Minnesota, in what seems to be a magic trick, Del Fayeme runs a batch of batteries in a beaker of boiling water, a physical impossibility that should cause a short circuit. But instead of a highly dangerous combination of water and electricity, the 3M co-engineer is testing the batteries in Novec, a non-flammable, non-conductive liquid the conglomerate has sold to cool supercomputers and which it now aims to sell to automakers to cool batteries. Maintaining a constant low temperature helps electric vehicles, or EVs, drive longer distances, so keeping batteries cool could help solve a key problem for automakers. A lack of range has been a major obstacle to the mass adoption of electric cars. Major automakers plan to roll out hundreds of new electric vehicle models over the next several years, fueled by investments that consultancy Alex Partners has estimated at up to $255 billion through 2023. To put that in context, in 2017, all the world's automakers and suppliers combined invested $115 billion in research and development and had capital expenditures of $234 billion. Suppliers hope automakers will adopt their technology early in the development process so they can sell similar products to more than one customer. When it comes to electric vehicles, yes, you do hear the term EV revolution, and in part, that story explains why. It's not just the battery, the nickel, the cobalt. It's also the industries that are being built and the research and development that is going in to support electric vehicles that are making it a revolution. Government regulations and adoption of electric vehicles in the private and public service industries are also driving new technologies and new research that are supporting and complementing the movement. Public adoption is coming, and with all these arrows and money aligned towards electric vehicles, nickel and cobalt are looking to have more and more of a higher and higher upside. And that will wrap up this edition of SBTV Market News. We hope you found this info useful, and if you are interested to get in on the EV revolution, please go to our website www.silverbullion.com.sg and click on Electric Vehicle Metals and participate in the EV revolution. Excited about the opportunities in the coming electric vehicle revolution and looking to invest in this electrification super cycle? Demand for battery metals like nickel and cobalt is expected to rise in tandem with the increase in demand for lithium-ion batteries in electric vehicles. You can now buy nickel and cobalt parcels with silver bullion and have a direct price exposure to both battery metals. You have the option to buy 2-ton nickel parcels or 250-kilogram cobalt drums. Every parcel will be fully insured against loss and guaranteed to be genuine by silver bullion. Selling your parcels to lock in profits is as simple as logging into your silver bullion account, selecting the parcels, and clicking sell. Buy your nickel and cobalt parcels now at Silver Bullion's website www.silverbullion.com.sg/EV and participate in the electric vehicle revolution. Interested but have questions? Email us at sales@silverbullion.com.sg or give us a call at +65 6100 3040. Electric vehicle adoption is here, and both cobalt and nickel are poised for gains. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the SBTV channel to be updated on our new content.